Chapter 1144, fresh off of Anime Japan, where the anime's new time slot, there will be a special recap the day before it returns. There's the Borussia Dortmund collab though, which is pretty sick, and it's been coming. There's the new Baskin Robbins collab where there will be devil fruit flavors. I don't know how that will work, but the good thing is, whether it's good or bad, it's a win-win situation, because if it's bad, that's how devil fruits taste canonically. If it's good, then it's good. There's just over a week left until the anime returns, and the trailer for that looks incredible. Also, I know this isn't One Piece related and it is a few days in advance, but Eid Mubarak. I have been kind of ill for the past week, so my voice sounds kind of nasally. Apologies about that. But to the chapter 1144. The cover story is back this week, and Yamato is cleaning house, taking out Who's Who subordinates, so that should mean Who's Who himself is fully defeated. He's not gonna make any more moves. He's done. So what the heck was his plan? Just to revitalize his own personal pirate group? Taking out any threats to that, submit to him, or be dealt with? The kidnappings were probably so he could force those girls' families into cooperating with him, so he's got some kind of leverage and some way to gain resources, but that kind of failed miserably. Minatomo, the carpenter who Franky worked under, is there as well. It's not hard to guess why he is there, because Who's Who needed a carpenter. Was he eventually going to try and expand his operation? There's no chance he was thinking of occupying the entire country like Kaido did, because he's not Kaido. That would just be stupid on his part. So is he just going to occupy this small corner of Wano's underworld, I guess? I mean, it doesn't look like it matters anymore. They can lock him up and be done with it. Recruit Ulti on page 1 and carry on to return Yasui's sword and then to the rest of the pilgrimage. Before at the end of the journey, Blackbeard shows up to take Pluton thanks to Karibo's intel. That sounds like a plan. Ripley takes Franky to a giant robot which has apparently been around for over 3,000 years, and it looks like it's been changed up into a building. Emeth's long lost grandfather has been found. Anyway, this time frame is presumably the first world, or maybe it is the second world, because we don't know how long each one lasted. Revisiting the mural, it sounds like the Void Century and everything with Joyboy marked the end of the second world, and with the ancient kingdom being so technologically advanced, and with us not knowing how long it was around before it was destroyed in the Void Century, maybe this robot was made by those guys as well during the second world, just like Emeth himself assumedly was. But if we do say it was active during the first world, then we've got another parallel between each incarnation of Nika, with each of them having a robot companion. The original Nika with this 3,000-year-old robot, then Joyboy and Emeth, and it doesn't seem like a coincidence that Franky, a robotic cyborg, is the guy, the sole Straw Hat, who is here to behold this giant robot. What if Franky is Luffy's equivalent to Emeth and this thing? This seems like a great opportunity for him to work on some upgrades. He never got the chance to study Emeth, but he can study this. What if Emeth was like a more refined model of this robot, because Emeth had his own consciousness and personality? So what if Emeth was like the perfected, the most updated version of some ancient giant robot project that the ancient kingdom was working on? You can tell this robot is clearly different to Emeth, but if anyone's seen the 2009 Astro Boy movie, which is to my knowledge very different from the manga, but in it we are introduced to this massive robot, which is kind of what this 3,000-year-old robot is reminding me of a bit. How deep does the ancient giant lore really go? Because it's pretty clear to me that these robots were based off of them. So how important, what role did those guys actually play in all of this, even in the current day, when it's being noted how ancient giant blood is still present in the current giants, and how that same thing is constantly being brought up whenever someone talks about it, Loki or Harald. There's more to this, which does make me happy. Just give me more ancient giant lore. And speaking of how the ancient robots share resemblance with something, look at Franky's fit in this arc. He's got the horns thanks to his helmet, he has the gauntlets around his forearms, he has his giant shoulder pads. It's surely on purpose how Franky's been made to look like these ancient robots. Ripley even says she knew Franky would like it because he is a cyborg. It's all coming together. Also, this is where Lilith and Bonnie have been this entire time. They've been hanging out inside of this robot. Honestly, I almost forgot about them. So speaking of Franky getting some upgrades, one of the Vegapunks is here who can help him with that, and they're all in the same place, Franky, Lilith and this robot. So if he is interested in something like that, then he knows exactly where to go. And these two being here also means Kuma's body is in that robot somewhere, so I wonder how that situation's coming along with bringing back his individuality. I have an idea that the same way that Emeth has his own consciousness and free will, this robot could maybe have also had some form of that of its own, so maybe studying this will unlock that door to bringing back Kuma's consciousness consciousness. Like maybe Lilith discovers that the robots had someone's mind essentially planted into them to give them life, or their conscience could be completely artificial like the satellites, who are all themselves really artificial beings. And then that would bring up the debate that was being had at the end of Egghead. What does it mean for someone to be alive? What does it mean for someone to die? Either way, this sounds like it would bring them a step closer to achieving that goal of bringing him back. And there's also the identical Vegapunk clone stored in there somewhere, that thing, who is also a complete mystery. Will it be the exact same as it was when it was used to visit Ohara? Will it have aged? Will it have all of Vegapunk's memories and knowledge up to his death, even though that time when it did visit Ohara was seemingly the last time it was active, to our knowledge at least? The Kuma revival stuff I am completely okay with. It's this Vegapunk clone that's looking like a very slippery slope, because I can see ways it could be really good for the story and other ways not so good. And the tour is being cut short because the storm monster is behind them, meaning they don't need to join the fight because the fight's joining them. And to that point, Bonnie needs to be careful because obviously the world government has been after her since way before the Egghead incident, and the Holy Knights I think would know who she is, so for her own good she better stay up here in the robot. And the fighting has begun with the giants tangling with the nightmare monsters, and this is probably their first major conflict since Harald's death 14 years ago, because even when Loki was imprisoned 6 years ago, it was Shanks who would have done most of the heavy lifting. And add to that the fact that these guys have been changing their ways in honor of their fallen king, so they're probably rusty in terms of combat prowess. The only ones who wouldn't be, I guess, would be Dory and Brogy, who have been fighting on Little Garden this whole time, and Oimo and Kashi, who were tricked into fighting for the world government. It's the Draugr that they're fighting, and Brook thinks it's a bigger version of him. This is another gag of his that I feel like has gone under the radar. It's like when the Egghead arc started and that warm eddy appeared that had Bonnie inside of it. He just stood there staring at it because he thought it looked like an afro. He has these occasional aloof airhead moments, which does make sense to be fair, because there's nothing in his head except for air, because he's a skeleton. And the giants are finally made aware of what's happened in the castle. They know about the intruders, although none of them yet know that Summers and Killingham have joined while Shamrock's left. Not that they know who the intruders are in the first place, but just that the numbers have changed. Nami is pissed because obviously she has a very deep care for all children because of the way that she was raised and what she went through. Usopp is also proclaiming at the top of his lungs that he's gonna fight as well. Such bravery from him. And Colin is back in the game because he jumps into a small boat and sneaks away, taking Brook, Usopp, Jinbei, Nami with him so they can join the fight as well. He's meant to be banned from the fighting, which I can get behind. He's a kid who's only known these peaceful times. He was alive when the Harald incident took place, but he would have been a baby at the time, so there's no chance he'd remember that. So even though he's still being raised in some part as a warrior, he's not a warrior yet, you know. The Straw Hats are also supposed to be forbidden from the fighting. Yarul isn't letting them get involved because they're meant to be the guests. If only he knew that that's just not how things work around here, or when the Straw Hats are around, that's not how things work around here. So on a temporary basis, the Colin Pirates have been formed. His father would be so proud of him. So looking forward a bit, Colin is 100% gonna be caught under Killickham's spell somehow and become one of Summer's targets. Like after these monsters are dealt with and the Holy Knights themselves are forced to get involved personally rather than just watching from afar. I was talking about this last chapter, but once Ripley and Franky also end up joining the party, Ripley is gonna try and grab him, which will do a ton of damage to her. But there's also the variable of another member of the family joining the party later on in the chapter. And on top of that, one of the Straw Hats here will also most definitely fall victim to this. A good option would have been someone like Nami being targeted and Sanji jumping in and getting hurt by the thorns, but obviously he's currently in the underworld with Luffy and Zoro. And I can only really see him getting involved in the fighting with these guys when they free Loki and go up to the Sunworld altogether. They're kind of isolated, cut off from everyone else, so there's not really many ways for them to be notified about the situation. And Gerd did say it would take several months for Loki to recover, so there's that as well. And we don't have that kind of time, so I'm a fan of the idea of Loki being treated enough for him to be able to get involved in the action, but he won't be at 100%, meaning Loki is going to be nerfed for the rest of the arc, which I'm personally okay with. So the possibility of Sanji being the one who gets hurt by the thorns is still on the table, depending on how quickly Loki is able to get back on his feet and when the Holy Knights jump in. But again, I I can only really see Loki getting involved after a flashback where the truth is revealed to everyone who is currently in the underworld. And speaking of how they get notified or how they find out about everything going on up above, the Holy Knights were talking about using a sunstone painter to get the children down, and these guys in the underworld could see the rainbow bridge forming, and that could kind of be their call to action, like something's going on, let's go up and take a look. And this I wasn't expecting at all, but Gunko is a massive fan of Soul King Brook. She has been getting more humanized though recently. We saw her blushing and enjoying the meal from the last chapter, and now it's come out that she probably has posters of Brook covering the walls of her bedroom the same way Mbappe had posters of Ronaldo covering his. She has a pair of headphones on listening to Brook's song New World, and it has TD written on the side, and for that we need to go back to chapter 598 where Brook mentions how they've been selling loads of TDs, which stands for tone dials, and then jump to the SPS of volume 64 where that's expanded upon, and Oda explains how essentially headphones can be made using them. We can confidently say that back then when Brook was having his concerts, Gunko was 100% listening in back then as well. And it's always Summers who has to bring up something deep to say or ask, like how love is painful or something, asking about Gunko's fear. Now he's asking about what her opinion is on the state of the world. Just stop interrupting, let her listen to some Soul King gospel. So that interaction is gonna be crazy, because not only is there potential for Gunko to completely geek out over seeing him, but Brook might even become a bigger fan of hers, because he won't even need to ask if he can see her panties, because her panties are already out for the whole world to see. I remember the backlash her character design got when she was first fully revealed, but I also remember how everyone instantly switched up when we saw her in action giving it to Loki. What if it wasn't just Oda being Oda, but there's reason to this design, which I guess would also be Oda being Oda, giving meaning to everything. Do you think she purposefully dresses like that in the hopes that she would one day run into Brook and she would be prepared for that one question he would ask? I feel like Brook may be to her something similar to what Shirahoshi is to Charlos. If she gets the chance, there's the possibility that she tries to kidnap him to take back to Marijua. What if instead of Nami getting targeted, like I said before, what if it's Brook who gets put to sleep and surrounded by the thorns? There's a really good skull joke in this hypothetical scenario somewhere. I can feel it, but I can't put my finger on it. It would be one of those skull jokes that gets Brook out of a sticky situation, like he's screaming for help, he's panicking before realizing he's a skeleton, and that means he could do this or that to get himself out of it. Brook, I am getting my hopes up for you, do not let me down. At the school, Sol is still trying to stop the kids from sleepwalking, and he uses a shield, which isn't a bad idea, but that only causes them to collide with each other and get hurt by each other's thorns that are wrapped around them. He tries using a rope to pull them back, but the Fenrir nightmare shows up and attacks him, so they are acting as gods. I wonder if each one is the same strength, because that's another thing. When Killingham materializes these things, is he simply giving them physical form, or does his ability also play a role in how strong they are as well? If one of the kids imagined their nightmare to be as strong as a giant warrior, would it automatically be manifested with that level of strength? You know, is the ability that nuanced? Back with the giants now, with Dory, Ambrogi, and one more guy, but as for these two first, they are still sober. It's not just them as well, it's their crew, the giant warrior pirates aboard the ship as well. And the reason why they're sober is because they forced themselves to throw up all of the alcohol that they drank. So there better not have been any animals nearby, because they would have 100% perished on the spot. Like acid, their skin would have been ripped from their bones. It would be like the factories in Wano. Dory and Brogi's vomit would pollute the surrounding area and make it uninhabitable. I don't know why, but in my mind I can just picture it as being deadly. Makes you think though, what would giant drunken style fighting look like? I mean, given their size, they've probably consumed the volume of a house's worth of booze, and the thing is, these guys are known to party for days, so they were just getting started as well. If they weren't interrupted, they 100% would have drunk until they passed out. That party would have looked like a murder scene, the way that bodies would have just been laid out. But the two do manage to gather on their ship, the Great Eric, and unleash their attack, the Spear of Elbaph, Hakoku Sovereignty, which takes out a lot of the monsters with a single strike. Aside from Loki, these two are without a doubt the strongest giants on the island, and I'm tired of people downplaying them for something that happened over 2 decades ago in the manga, and that has plenty of reasoning to explain why that happened. Dory and Brogi are beasts. You see, the other giants are struggling with just the Drauga skeleton, and these two make light work of 3 of the monsters in a single attack. I'm a big fan of them, in case you haven't noticed. And they showed up to the fight with Scopper Gaban, who has now joined the battle. Honestly, I never thought we were gonna see him again until the end of the arc, with the way he was speaking to Luffy, Zoro and Nami, but at the same time he did only meet those three at the time, so this will be the first time that him and this part of the crew will be interacting, minus Nami because she's also here now. And with everything they were told about Gaban, this is gonna be good. They know he is the former left-hand man of the King of the Pirates, so he's here now. All the giants are freaking out and geeking out in a sense as well at the firepower that's on that ship. Makes me think about what kind of fanfare they would have received when they returned to the island, because Dory and Broggy are pretty much legends in these parts. Was there an equivalent to the foaming at the mouth guy from Avatar in the crowd? Were there guys asking for autographs? Even Ripley wasn't born yet when they started their duel. Think about that. There's the pacifist generation of kids now, but there's a whole generation of warriors before them, which is Ripley's generation, who grew up while the duel on Little Garden was taking place. They were probably told stories of these two. Dory and Broggy really did miss a lot in those 100 years. Anyway, Gaban's drinking as well. He's getting into the spirit of the party, but also remember his son is here as well. Colin did help the Straw Hats out and brought them to the fight, so I wonder how Gaban's gonna react when he notices his son on the battlefield. We'll see what kind of father he is. He's gonna freak out, definitely. But after that, is he gonna be pissed that Colin's here, or is he just gonna go with it? And speaking of, I was talking about how Ripley would react and be hurt by the thorns were Colin to ever be captured. How would Gaban be hurt by the thorns if he were to ever try and grab Colin, who was caught in that ability? And if Colin were to fight, that would surely make him more susceptible to getting kidnapped. It would be great though to see the whole family fighting together once Ripley gets down here with Franky, of course. But also there's one more interaction I want to see, which is between Scupper Gaban and Somers, because Somers I think was at God Valley and we know Gaban was 100% at God Valley. So that's a fight I definitely want to see, which will have that added layer of Colin being kidnapped. And I also want to bring Killingham into the mix here because he has the Kirin Devil Fruit, and when I was first researching about the Kirin when he was first introduced, I came across an article that said something like the Kirin only appears after the death of a great sage or something like that. And back then I was spitballing and threw out Gaban as a possible candidate for a great sage, because he calls himself the Minister of Love, doesn't he? So he's a sage in that sense, kind of. So I'll say again, because now he is joining the battle, I think Scupper Gaban could die here. Or not, maybe I'm overthinking things, but the fighting has properly begun now, and as for the next chapter and beyond, this could last for a while with the amount of names in play here and with who's yet to join the fight. Maybe Loki and the monster trio will stay in the underworld for a while, because otherwise if they joined in it would be way too one-sided. Maybe Loki tells them the truth while the fighting happens above them. Those two things will be happening simultaneously. There's no break next week either, so we're getting a chapter and an anime episode on the same weekend for the first time in 6 months. I cannot wait.